Hey, what's going on, everybody? In this video, I'm going to go through all the steps required into preparing your server for a promotion to a domain controller. I'm working with Windows Server 2008 R2 Enterprise. What I've done is I went online and then downloaded the 180-day trial version, and it shows down here in the bottom right that my Windows license is expired. That's only because I created a server about 2 weeks ago, and I just did a backup of it so that I can always keep using that configuration, so I don't have to always install Windows Server 2008. So going through the steps in setting up your server, the first thing is activating Windows. So you just click up here and Server Manager. This property box here loads up every time you start your server. Unless you have this checked off, then it won't load up. And if it's not loaded up, you can just click down here on the little toolbox icon, or you can go to Start, Administrative Tools, and Server Manager right there. Okay, so that will open up. So the first thing we're going to want to do is activate Windows. So we're going to click here, enter in the product key. Just give me 1 second. Actually, before I activate, I have to set up my IP address. So it's best to have a statically assigned IP address. In this situation, I've turned off DHCP on my router so that I don't have internet. So I couldn't activate my version of Windows because I need the internet to activate it. So to do that, you can just right click here on your network icon and go to Open Network and Sharing. Click on the Change Adapter Settings, and then right click on your local area connection, and then go to Properties. Click on Internet Protocol version 4, so TCP/IP. You can deselect 6. For the time being, 4 is still widely used. 6 is coming into play. So for now, I'll go to 4 and then click on Properties. And here's where you statically assign your IP address. So you have to obtain your IP address scheme from either your administrator or your teacher or yourself. You just need to know it. And you click on this box here to enable the statically assigned. And for instance, my network is 10. Oops. I guess I need my numlock. So 10.10.10. And I'll put this server at 50. And then my subnet mask is a 24-bit subnet mask, so 255.255.255.0, and my default gateway is 10.10.10.1. Now my preferred DNS server, I can create a loopback to this server that we're creating now, because it is going to be a DNS server, 1. And then if you want to use an alternate DNS server for now, you can use Google's DNS server, which is a free server for public, so 8.8.8.8, and then just hit OK, and then hit close, and then you can close out of here. Windows has detected an IP conflict. So I guess I have another computer on my network with a .50, so give me 1 quick second here. Let's change it to 99, and then hit OK, close, and now we can close out of here. And now I should have my network come up, and as you can see, it updated itself here, my new IP address, and now I have internet. So now we can activate Windows, and I'll be right back. Okay, so now that it's activated here, you can see I got my 180 days. We can close out of this, and now the next thing you want to do is rename your computer to something that either follows suit with your business or your company, or you can name it by the server role. For instance, I'm going to be naming mine DC01 for Domain Controller 01. And to do that, I'm just going to go Change System Properties, and then you're going to get the System Properties dialog box, and then you come over here and go to Change to rename this computer or change its domain. And we're going to select the computer name and just go DC01 or however you choose to rename it. And then we're going to hit OK. And that's going to ask us to restart. Okay, so now it's going to restart. I'm going to hit restart later because I just got to do one more quick thing before I want to restart the server. And which is another good thing to configure off the bat is remote desktop with secured connection only. So to configure remote desktop, just click on the link, and then you either have less secure, which is not very good for your domain controller, and you want to allow network level authentication. So because we're not on a domain right now, the only way you can log on is with the administrative account for this domain controller. That's the only way that this will happen. So you just want to hit apply and hit OK. And now your server's set up. It's ready to be promoted to a domain controller, but first we're going to have to install the Active Directory binaries, and then you can go ahead and promote your server. So I'm just going to restart the server now, and once that's done, we'll be ready to start with the configuration. So once the server's restarted, and you're going to get this shutdown Windows dialog box. This is just a way to keep track of why your servers are being shut down, and you can select here whether it's like an application or an operating system issue, hardware issue, and then if it's just other, you might have to type in a comment before you can hit OK. So just hit OK, and now it's going to restart. So I'll be back in just a second. Alright, so we've restarted the system now. We're just going to log in. I'm still logging in locally here with this system. Alright, so now that we're activated, my background changes from a black to a blue, and server manager is going to generate here. Okay, so there we go, server manager is coming up. It's going to take a second to collect all the new data. And to install the Active Directory Domain Services role, you can either click over here on roles and go to add roles. You can go to your command prompt and type DC promo, or you can scroll down here and go to the role summary and click add roles. So we're here now, so we're going to click add roles. This is the Microsoft way, is they want you to install the binaries first. And when they mention Active Directory binaries, they're just meaning to go through the server manager wizard in the add roles and select this. All I did was select Active Directory Domain Services, and then when you select a role and your server doesn't have the required features, it will populate the features for you and download and install them as well. So just go add required features. And now I have Active Directory Domain Services checked off. Hit next. And then here's a little introduction to Active Directory Domain Services. You can click these links and read more. Hit next. And then this is just a summary of what we're installing. And then you just go ahead and click install. So this will run through its course, and when it's done, I'll be back. Alright, we're done now, and it's just telling us to do our updates up here, so we can ignore that for right now, but it is important to do your updates. And here we're just going to click close, and don't be alarmed by the red scary X here. All this means is that when you click on it, it's just going to tell you that you still have not promoted your server yet to a domain controller. And it's reminding you to go ahead and type DC promo. So you can click this link, or you can go down here into the command prompt and type DC promo.exe and hit enter, and it's going to check for the binaries what we've just installed. And now you get the Welcome to Active Directory Domain Services installation wizard. So this is where now we are going to be promoting our computer to a domain controller. We're either going to be creating a new forest, or we're going to be joining a forest, or creating a child domain. To do a trust, you would have to have advanced features on, and to install a read-only domain controller. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and make a new forest, And here's just a compatibility issue with the older Windows NT4 systems. So if you're not running Windows NT4 in your domain, you can skip this. If you are, I would go ahead and read this. And I would also recommend trying to upgrade whatever you are running as Windows NT4. And then we can just hit next here. And you got your two options. So you're either creating a new domain in a new forest, which is what we're going to be doing, or creating joining an existing forest. So we'll do that in other tutorials. So for this one, we're going to be creating a new domain in a new forest and hitting next. And then here's the FQDN of our domain. So I'm going to use testdomain.net. Don't use a .com, because if you ever in the future want to set up like a web server or something, it's better to have a .com than a .net. It's not good to have your website and your domain with the exact same name, because then your DNS has to do a lot more work to distinguish what's internal and what's external, and that's like a feature called split brain DNS. If you want to go ahead and read on that, be it by all means, but by doing it .net or something else, something that you wouldn't want your website to be, is preferable. So hit next here, and it's just going to check whether or not that forest is already in use. Okay, so here we got the forest functional levels. So again, you can read through the details here, and what the functional levels are just like new features throughout the like from the upgraded of the versions. So you got Windows Server 2003, 2000, 2008, and 2008 R2. For this, we're going to use 2003 because I do have a 2003 domain controller that we're going to use to do an upgrade. And if you select 2008 R2 or 2008, you can't have any lower version domain controller on your domain. So I'm going to use 2003. And for the domain functional level, like I said, you can have child domains and other tree branches, and which domain functional level is strictly within that domain. So I can have server 2003. Alright, so the domain controller will affect the domain that you're currently in. So if you install Windows Server 2008, then you can't have lower versions inside of your domain, but in your child domain you can have 2003. So we're just going to hit next here. Just going to examine the DNS. And because we're making our first domain controller in the forest, it has to be a global catalog, and it cannot be a read-only domain controller, which is why they're grayed out. You do have the option to deselect DNS, but in this case we're going to keep DNS and hit next. And then it's going to examine the DNS, and this might take a few minutes. And you're going to get this delegation. You're always going to get this when you create your first domain controller, your first DNS server in your domain. It's just telling you that there's no delegation, and it will create one for you. So hit yes. Okay, now your database folder. This is a very important folder. This controls everything about your domain. This is the log file for this folder, and the SYSVOL holds all your like attributes and attributes and your like group policy templates and all that. So this is a very important folder too. And for best practices, we're going to do this the proper way, and we're going to put each one of these folders on a different hard drive that has nothing else other than these folders. So give me a second, and I'm going to get to the disk management page, and we're going to activate our disks here. Okay, so all I did is I opened up Server Manager, and I went down to this tab here, and I select Disk Management, and you can see I have my 3 disks here that I've installed. They're all offline, so we got to bring them all online first. Okay, and then we have to initialize the disk. So we can initialize all 3 at the same time, and we're going to make the master boot records. Hit OK. So now they're all activated and online, and now you can just come over to each one and select it and go new simple volume, and hit OK. Just create the whole drive, or you can partition it if you want. And for this one, we're just going to assign it E, and we're going to call it NTDS. Hit next, and then hit finish, and it's going to format, and it's going to do its thing. And then we're going to do the same thing with these two. So make it F. We can call this one NTDS logs. You can name these whatever you want to. And then we do the same for this last one. G, and we're going to name it SYSVOL. And finish. So now that our partitions are made, we can just open up computer, or our Explorer here, Windows Explorer, go to computer, and we can see now that we have all of our drives here. So we're going to keep this open, and we're just going to go to the database folder. We can hit browse if we're unsure, and we're doing the database folder, so we're going to put it in the NTDS or the E drive and hit OK. And then we're just going to name NTDS. And the same with these folders here. This one's going to go in the logs, reformat it, NTDS logs, or just NTDS, sorry. And then down here again, SYSVOL, and then give it a folder of SYSVOL. And there we go. So now that's the Microsoft way. Best practice right there is to put them all on separate drives with nothing else on them. Hit next. And we're going to give a restore mode password. So if we ever have to recover our domain controller, we can boot into directory service restore mode, and we'll need this password. So hit next, and then just hit next, and we can export these settings and create a unattended answer file. I already have one written up, so we'll do that in a later video. And we're going to hit next here, and now it's going to install everything and configure our domain, and it's going to require a reboot, so we can just click on this little checkbox here, and it'll reboot on completion. So when it reboots and we're at the login, I will restart the video. Thanks. Alright, so we're at the login page, so we can hit our Control-Alt-Delete to log in, and you can see now that we're on the test domain, and we're logging as the local administrator. So we can type in the password, and now we're going to log in, and we're just going to verify that our folders are all in place. So we're going to see Server Manager generate very soon. Okay, so Server Manager is up, and you can see now that we're on the domain testdomain.net. Our roles over here, if we expand this tree, we have our Active Directory domain services and our DNS. And in our computer, in our drives here, we got our E, so we got our NTDS folder, and this is going to hold our NTDS.dit, which is our very important folder, our file, sorry. We got our logs, so here's our log files, and we got our SYSVOL, everything about our domain. So everything's in place, everything's good to go. You successfully now have a working domain controller with DNS. In the next videos, we're going to start to populate it, delegate some control. We're going to make a complete series here on just administering Active Directory in a Windows Server 2008 environment. So thanks for watching, and I hope this helped.